An Asian romantic drama that stars a bitter film person? I don't know. It sounds pretty great to me. Let's talk about Shortcomings. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch or Pass. I'm here to talk to you about Shortcomings, which is coming to theaters on August 4th, 2023. It is the directorial debut of Randall Park, and it is an Asian romantic drama that has a very bitter film protagonist, some flavors of East versus West, both cultural and coastal, and it has some pretty poignant points. My hot take is, look, I think it was between like a rent and a watch, mainly because the start is fairly slow. But ultimately, I liked it. I liked the way it concluded. I liked the way that it kind of like developed its characters. So I think it's ultimately a watch because I really love the characters. I liked and hated the protagonist. It was an interesting kind of duality. And I really liked the story and the different topics it touched on. So despite it having a slow start and despite it having some very convenient like character changes, I really did enjoy this movie. So I'm going to tell you a little more about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then briefly go into the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the ending section. If you don't want to know what happened in this movie, I would turn off when I get to the ending section. Before that, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So like I said, Shortcomings is the story of Ben, who is this film buff who is in Berkeley. He is very kind of like negative in general, although he has a fairly calm demeanor. He kind of is negative and critical of those around him. He kind of has a complex where he thinks he's better than everyone, or at least he tries to make it seem like he's better than everyone. And he is just kind of stuck in a rut in both his relationship and his life. That all changes when Ben's girlfriend Miko moves to New York for an internship, and that causes a ton of change in both his and Miko's life and everything kind of that he's grown to know and become comfortable with. So things I liked about this movie: the first, I like the characters a lot. There's a lot of very interesting characters. Each one is very different and unique, and there's a lot of Asian protagonists. I really like how this film is an Asian first romantic drama. Look, I'm Asian. I like kind of this story, and it touches on some, I don't know, not uniquely Asian, but some Asian topics that aren't always talked about in main film, like some of the inherent racism between Asians and some of the stereotypes and kind of cultural influences that are put on Asians, especially those that grew up in America. So I really like that part about it. I liked how all the characters felt very different and unique, and they all kind of added an element to this overall story. The second thing I really loved, I liked the protagonist. Look, he's a terrible person. He is not very likable, but I don't know. I kind of related to him. He is a film buff. He is sometimes negative, sometimes a little sarcastic, sometimes a little hard to get along with. I don't know, just sound like someone that I might enjoy seeing. He was tough at times, but I did like him as a main character. I liked him as a protagonist. It felt a little different than most of your kind of like normal romantic drama movies. And I liked his progression as this film went on. So the third thing I loved about this movie, I liked the story. I liked how it's divided into various parts, very digestible parts. It kind of like has various acts throughout. And it makes it so that the story does feel like it's progressing, even though it has a very slow start. I keep saying it has a slow start. I'll go into my negatives, but despite the slow start, it does feel like the story makes progress. It does feel like it is broken up into discrete chunks that you can watch and have like a purpose for the overall journey that Ben goes on. So I really liked the story overall. I liked kind of where it started and where it kind of ended. So, and the fourth thing I like some of the interesting elements. Like I like the East Coast West Coast feud. I love that it kind of put both of those into perspective and kind of showed both. I like that it had like a Berkeley versus New York emphasis because those are two places that are dear to my heart, and I liked seeing how they were kind of like woven into the story, woven into the various characters that we meet. And the last thing I really love, look, I like the ending. I thought it was kind of an interesting, non-traditional ending, kind of not your normal romantic drama ending. And I like the way that the story wrapped everything up. So all that being said, lots of things I liked, things I didn't love as much. The first, I keep mentioning it was a slow start. Like Ben's life is kind of in a rut at the start, and that's shown in the way that this film goes about, the way that this film starts. It is not super interesting. It's not super exciting until it gets a little bit later into his journey. So that being said, just kind of like stick it out. It is kind of exacerbated by the fact that Ben is not a very likable character. So it is tough to kind of like see an unlikable character with a slow start. But don't worry, stick through it. It gets better, and but don't worry, stick with it. The film does get better and more interesting as the film progresses. The last thing I didn't love as much about this film, it was kind of a quick resolution. Like I said, I ultimately liked the ending. I liked where this film ended up, but there are some very convenient realizations, some very what should be painful realizations that come about fairly quickly to get us to that point. And so it did feel like this film kind of wrapped up a little bit quickly, a little bit conveniently. But ultimately, I did like where this film ended. So that is Shortcomings. It comes to theaters on August 4th, 2023. check it out. I think it's different. I think it throws out something that you don't normally see in most movies, and I liked, a lot about this. So I think it's definitely a film you should check out. So if you do see it, let me know what you thought. Let me know what you liked. Let me know what you didn't like. Let me know what I got right. Let me know what I got wrong. Love to hear it. Love to hear all your thoughts. And I'm gonna get into the ending now. So if you don't want to know what happens in this movie, turn it off now because there will be spoilers. There will be spoilers. There will be spoilers. So, like I said, this film focuses on Ben, who is this kind of, I don't know, guy that's just kind of stuck in a rut. He dropped out of film school because he wanted to make his own film. He wanted to kind of like be the filmmaker that he was dreaming about. Didn't really work out for him. He found out it was pretty tough. I think he made one film and it didn't I didn't end up the way he wanted to, or wasn't very well received. And now he is just kind of like living his life, working at a movie studio, just kind of like stuck in Berkeley, just kind of like living in Berkeley and kind of stuck in a routine. Now, this all changes when his girlfriend Miko, who they seem to have they seem to have a few like relationship problems. She decides that she's going to go on an internship to New York, and because of this, they essentially decide to take a break. Now, so Ben seems upset about this, but I think he also sees this as an opportunity to kind of explore some of the things that he's been interested in. He was definitely interested in one of his coworkers, and I think he viewed this as an opportunity to maybe explore that part. Well, it turns out it doesn't go great for Ben. That coworker is interesting and quirky and just not a great fit for him. She is a very different artist than I think the artist that Ben was hoping she would be. And so even though they do kind of like go on a date, it doesn't really work out. But never fear, Ben meets someone else, this person named Sasha, who seems to be a better fit for him. Even though Ben's character is kind of like inherently negative and sometimes says the wrong things, they do seem to get along pretty well. Their relationship progresses pretty quickly. And it seems like maybe his life is going well. He is on his own. He is working at a cinema. He is dating someone that he has kind of like fantasized about. And so it seems like everything is going well. Well, it's not going to be going well for long. The first thing that happens, the first crack that happens is his best friend, who is this person named Alice, who they both have a very kind of like negative but supportive outlook on life. It's an interesting kind of combination that they have. She gets kicked out of grad school and decides that she's going to go to New York to clear her head. So she, in Ben's mind, kind of abandons him. Then the next thing that happens is the cinema that Ben manages, we find out it has to close. Ben has an all-call meeting with all the employees and tells them that they have to close. There was a building inspector who came through, and the building wasn't up to code. And as you can imagine, in the East Bay, probably getting up to code is very expensive. The cinema wasn't doing very well anyways, so they have to shut down. So now Ben has lost his long-term girlfriend earlier. He lost his best friend. Now he's losing his job. Well, it doesn't get much better for Ben because Sasha says that she has to talk to him, and she tells him that her girlfriend, who moved out, I believe, like a month ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, is now coming back. And they ended things on kind of uncertain terms. They weren't sure what they were. So because of this, Sasha started dating, and she started dating Ben. Well, turns out that Sasha's ex-girlfriend maybe didn't so much as end it, and so they're going to get back together. So now Ben is out of that relationship. Also, he has lost his long-term girlfriend, his job, his best friend, and now his new girlfriend. He might also lose the place he's living because he is living in a house that is owned by Miko's father. His long-term girlfriend's father owns the place that Ben is living. So it doesn't seem like everything's working out for him. He decides, you know what? He's going to go to New York. And why would he do this? Well, there's probably a few reasons. One of the things that he doesn't really want to admit to himself is he wants to go find Miko. He's like actually sad about this. And he's also probably pretty sad that she's not returning his call. So part of this trip is for him to figure out what's going on with Miko. So when Ben gets to New York, he stays with Alice, who has been in New York for a little bit. And she's already in this pretty serious relationship with this new person that she met in New York. And they are kind of living together. So Ben stays with them, and Alice's new girlfriend welcomes him with open arms. It's kind of very sweet. Even though Ben says the wrong things and Ben's a little awkward, it is very sweet how much that Alice's girlfriend embraces him because he is Alice's best friend. Well, after they hang out for a little bit, we find out essentially why Ben got there. He seems to want to get Miko back. He goes to the place where she has an internship, which was interesting. It was the Asian American Independent Film Institute. And on the wall of this place, I loved it. It had some posters from some really good independent Asian films. So again, this film has an Asian focus to it, which was really nice to see. I really liked kind of that layer and that kind of lens that this film went through, and that was a great touch. Going to the Asian American Independent Film Institute and seeing some movies that maybe you want to check out. When you see those 4 posters, maybe you should check those out as well, because they are good Asian movies. So Ben goes to this place with some flowers to give them to Miko to surprise her. When he gets there, he says, "Hey, is Miko here?" And the receptionist there is like, "There's no Miko here." He's like, "Oh, well, where is she? Is she at the lunch?" He's like, "No, Miko doesn't work here." He's like, "Oh, did she like quit?" He's like, "No, we've never had a Miko." And so Ben is very, very confused because Miko went out here to go to this internship, and now it turns out that she didn't actually do that. Well, why did she come to New York? Well, Ben and Alice do some Instagram sleuthing. They're scrolling Miko's Instagram stories, and they see that this one person keeps liking every one of her pictures, this person named Leon Alexander. They track him down. Turns out he's a famous designer. He has some clothes shops in New York, and I guess probably other places. We don't really get into that, but he at least has a nice boutique in New York. And scrolling in the store, there are modeling pictures of Miko. Miko is like modeling his clothes. Very different than what we had come to know from her and what Ben expected from her. It seems like she is growing in New York and changing. And Ben is very confused by all of this because he doesn't know who this person is. He doesn't, this is a very different Miko than he knows. He calls her from a different phone because she has not been taking his calls. And when she picks up, he uses a subterfuge to get her address. And when he gets this, he stakes this out. He like stalks her in the rom-com kind of way where it's innocent, but a little sinister as well. And we see that Miko and Leon Alexander are together. They're living together. They seem to be fairly happy together. And eventually Ben finally confronts them. And I love this scene because Leon is just like this ridiculous, over the top character, but like in a very subdued way. Like when he and Miko are together, he is clearly a tall white guy and Miko is a short Asian girl, and he is like speaking Japanese to her, like they are speaking Japanese together. He is like very kind of understanding of Ben when Ben like confronts them and says, "What's going on?" First, when Ben like grabs him, he like instantly goes into like a martial arts stance, and he's like, "Oh, sorry, force of habit. Like that's just years of training. I didn't mean to like come off aggressive." And he says like, "You both seem to need to work out what's going on. Go up to my place, talk it out. I will get out of your hair. I will let you figure this out." He is this like understanding, over the top, quirky character that was just fun to kind of like have at this point in the film. When Ben gets up there, he is upset with Miko, and she explained that like she met Leon at a film festival that she was working. They just went on a couple like coffee dates, and that's when she decided to move out to New York to kind of see if there was anything there. And so she was definitely deceptive in her reasoning for going out there. But she said, like, you know what? Our relationship was having problems before that. She apologizes for lying to him, but she says that like it was necessary. Ben is very focused on like the wrong things. He's focused on how Leon is like a white guy and how he probably has like an Asian fetish and all the things that he should not be focusing on in this relationship. He's not focusing on the things that he did. He is focusing on like Miko and other aspects of this situation that are not that relevant to their overall to the overall underlying issues that they are having. It is a really good conversation. I do like the writing. I probably should have said I like the writing. It is a well-written film. I did like kind of some of the topics that it touches on and the way that it addresses them. And I really love this part right here. There's a scene here where like partway through when Ben's yelling at her, Miko just like smiles. And Ben's like, "What are you smiling about?" And she's like, "I just had this wonderful thought. I never have to deal with this crap again." Because she is like closing the door on Ben. It's like, it's over. Ben leaves, and now Miko can go on with her life. So I love that scene. I love like the way it kind of switched from them having like an argument to then her just smiling and just like driving that knife right into Ben when he is being a jerk to her. So now that Ben is kind of like hit rock bottom, he goes back to Alice and her girlfriend Meredith's place. And Ben has had a little bit of friction with them. Like he's been not the best host. He hasn't been terrible, but he has definitely kind of like brought up things that Alice had tried to leave in the past. She's been trying to like grow in New York, and he seems to like cause her to regress a little bit. And then also he's clearly like going through some emotional stuff and not the best roommate, best kind of person to be with at this point. So Ben has a fairly quick emotional shift, and apologizes to Meredith, says like, "I'm sorry you had to meet me at this point in my life, and I'm hoping that like next time I'll be in a better place." So I thought it was interesting. I thought that was an interesting way to frame it. And eventually he decides that he's going to change his flight and leave and go home soon. Like he's going to leave New York, head back to Berkeley, try to get his life back in order. And Alice and Meredith are a little upset about this, but I think they both realize this is probably the best for everyone involved. So Ben changes his flight for the next day, and that night, Meredith and Alice and Ben all go to a birthday party for Meredith. This is her birthday. She is having a party, and there she announces that her and Alice are like making it official. They are moving in together. They are like going to become an official, like serious couple. So really great for Alice. Alice was a like serial dater. She never could like commit to anything. And it seems like now in New York, she is growing as a person and also committing to someone else. Ben seems happy for her. He decides that he's going to leave early. He heads back, packs up. Early the next morning, before anyone's up, he leaves the apartment, leaving a note saying that he has to go talk to Miko and thanking Meredith for hospitality. He goes, and you think, okay, now there's going to be this like big rom-com type moment where he's going to like have an epiphany, maybe say something to her. There'll be some tears, things like that. He gets there, he gets to Miko's place, or gets to at least outside Miko's place, and he looks across the street and he sees Miko and Leon at like a cafe or something like that, eating breakfast. And Miko seems very happy, like she's smiling, she has this like glow about her. It seems like she is actually very happy here. And Ben, in this wonderful like epiphany growth moment, realizes he's not going to interrupt, he's not going to ruin Miko's day, and so he just turns around and leaves. He gets to the airport. There's a really funny scene where this like attractive Asian girl comes up to him and is like, "Oh, is anyone sitting here?" And he like looks very happy, like, "Oh, maybe he's going to meet someone." And she's like, "Thank you." And she grabs the chair, brings it to the table where her, presumably a spouse and or the significant other is there with a kid, and she sits down, and Ben is again sitting alone at a table by himself with his thoughts. Now, so Ben flies back, and when he gets back, he gets a voicemail from Alice, and she says that she's proud of him, that he tried, and maybe now that he has like tried and failed, he can go home and grow and change and be happier. And as Ben is listening to this, you see all the people in Ben's life that he has touched so far. And you see Miko with Leon. You see this person, Autumn, who was at his work that he tried to date and it didn't work out. But she seems happy. She is like showing an art installation she was doing, and it seems like she's dating one of the old people from the cinema. You see Sasha with her girlfriend. They seem pretty happy as well. And then you see Autumn and Meredith, and they also seem happy. They're they're putting both of their names on the apartment, so it's like they are now official. So it's kind of sad because everyone that Ben has touched is now happy and moving on and growing. And then you see Ben sitting here in the Bay Area looking at I think the Bay Bridge. I don't remember exactly which bridge it was, but it was definitely one of the bridges into the Bay. And he is kind of still at rock bottom. He's like, you don't know what he's going to do. You don't know where he's going to live. You don't know, what he's going to do next. But the look on his face is much more determined than we've seen before. It looks like he is like determined to move forward, determined to change, determined to do something else. And that's when the film ends. And I liked this ending because it was a non-traditional ending. It wasn't like your normal rom-com romantic drama type ending. And so it's kind of a sad ending because Ben is still alone. He hasn't met someone else. He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have a place to live, but he does feel like he has grown emotionally. He has grown, matured in this whole journey. And it feels like despite him, it being kind of sad that he's got nothing, you do feel like there's going to be a path forward for Ben. So I liked the way it ended. I thought it was different than a lot of the other movies I've seen, and I thought it was kind of a nice way to wrap up this whole story. So that is Shortcomings. It's coming to theaters on August 4th, 2023. Definitely check it out and stick with it despite the slow start and the unlikable protagonist, because it does get better. So if you do see it, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you liked. Let me know what you didn't like. Let me know what I got right and wrong. I'd love to hear it all. And thanks so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like, subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.